Ike Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.
Hey everybody, how you doing? I hope you're having a wonderful night. It is Mischief Eve, the night before Halloween. I hope you're having a good one wherever you're watching. We already got 100 people on here. And listen to me, I got a good one for you today. Joining us in just a second, two of my really good friends, Ken Duke, Brian the Carpenter, and we are going to be discussing all kinds of things. Obviously, Bass After Dark and other stuff. So hang in there. It's going to be a really good one. As you know by the intro there, and by the way, that is me doing that voiceover at the end. I know it's a very deep, manly voice, but we are brought to you by Abu Garcia, the maker of great rods and reels. Go over to abugarcia.com and check out all their products. And the Ike Series 3.0 rods and reels now available over on Tackle Warehouse and, of course, abugarcia.com. Go check that out. Also brought to you by the Ike Foundation, trying to get kids fishing one at a time. If you want to find out on how to get more kids fishing, head on over to the ikefoundation.org and a lot of great information over there. Last but not least, the beer of the night, and hopefully some of you watching tonight can enjoy a nice adult beverage with me, whether you're having a beer or a wine or a cocktail or a spritzer or Purple Passion or Bartles and James, whatever you're drinking. Tonight's beer, we got a Neck of the Woods Pumpkin Chino, which is a porter with coffee, pumpkin, and vanilla bean. So we're drinking a porter tonight. This is the first time I'm having this beer, by the way. So this is a live taste. You heard of live reads. This is a live taste. Oh, man, that's good. Pumpkin Chino, Neck of the Woods Brewery. Cheers to everyone watching. Let's get right into it, guys, because I'm very anxious to get these guys on my show. They have their own show, but I'm glad to get them on this show. Joining us now, Ken Duke, Brian the Carpenter. What's up, guys?
Mike, thanks so much for having us on. We love Ike Live, and Brian, of course, is a part of Ike Live for so many years, but it's a thrill.
Always a part.
Always a part. Yes. It's good to have you guys on. I thought we'd start tonight with I would ease into the show and say that tonight is Mischief Night, okay? And so, I think Mischief Night, I feel like, and back me up on this, Ken and Brian, if you agree with this or disagree, I feel like Mischief Night has changed.
Oh, it is Mischief Night.
It's Mischief Night, dude. I feel like Mischief Night has changed when it comes to the youth.
Oh yeah.
So I can speak for Brian because we spent many a Mischief Night together. From 10 years old to 8, maybe not 18, but middle school, high school. But Ken, describe Mischief Night in your youth. Were you mischievous? Was it a thing?
I wasn't that. I was a pretty well-behaved kid, but yeah, you could get into some trouble the day before Halloween. Go out, knock on doors. I remember a few times when I was pretty young, 10, 11 maybe at the oldest, go over to some friend's house whose mom had just bought a bunch of candy and steal the candy. Why stop the next night for a trick or treat when you've already got everything they own? Stuff like that, just goofy stuff.
Yeah. Brian, same question posed to you. Like, again, I know this, but Mischief Night for you as a youth, pinpoint your age, I would say 12 to, 11, 12 to 17, 18 years old. Were you a good kid on Mischief Night, or?
I was a little asshole.
A little asshole. And describe some of that. Like, what was Mischief Night growing up in Runnymede?
I think it started out with like stealing mustard and ketchup packs from 7-Eleven and squirting them on cars for no reason because little asshole. So, petty crime like that to kind of get things rolling.
Crime.
Yeah. There was toilet paper and eggs and,
toilet paper, the trees, right?
Yeah.
Eggs. Yeah.
And I think it culminated with, we really got into the dummies, like when people would put, a scarecrow or something on their front step, dressed up like Count Franken Dracula or whatever. We would steal them and then like tie a rope to them and drag them across the street in front of traffic, or drop them down from a
lot of drop kicks from those, from what I remember. Yeah.
I remember dropping it from a tree limb into side streets. Nobody was going fast, 25 mile an hour speed limits. We're not crazy,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's where we kind of peaked in our mischief career.
Yeah, I remember a couple more gruesome things. I remember, of course, and again, I feel like we're past the statutes of limitation. Ken, would you agree?
Definitely. It's 7 years and for most things except murder. There's no statute of limitations for murder, so be careful.
Okay, none of this is murder. So I do remember some of the brown paper bag, and this is a little gruesome. If you're watching this, I apologize, but pooping in a brown paper bag, putting it on the front step, lighting it on fire, and knocking. I remember a few of those. Look at Brian looking at me.
I never pooped in a bag. I think we borrowed somebody's dogs. Yeah, what the hell, dude?
Do you think it was dog poop?
Yeah.
Well, they have poop in the box now for early detection of cancer.
Ah,
It crusted over, dog loaf. Nothing crazy.
All right.
Yeah, and from all this kind of mischief, the poop in a bag, the Colo Guard business has taken off.
That's how it happens, Ken. All great ideas start small.
That's why I've never had a great idea, because all my ideas start gigantic with lots of flaws.
But honestly, I feel like it is a different world today. Like I don't see my kids. They don't even they don't
even know about it. Yeah.
They don't even know what Mischief Night is.
Who taught us? Because obviously we didn't pass it on to our kids.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember who taught. I don't know if it was more of a, city suburb kind of thing. And as I don't know, we're rural now. I don't know if it had something to do with that, but it is a different world now. Like back then, Ken, we would get chased and we'd run away, but if you got caught, you might get beat up. But that was that.
Oh yeah.
But now this is a whole different world where there's liability and worry and and the fact that we're like parents now, so now we can look back on it and say, damn, that was messed up, some of this.
Yeah, the things that I mean, I'm 10 years older than you guys, but the things that I was allowed to do as a kid that you were allowed to do as a kid, you would never dream of letting your own children do them. And I think that I used to think that the world was becoming more liberal and permissive, but now I think it's not. Bullying is a dread thing, and when I was a kid, bullying was just how you kept people in line. I'm mostly joking.
I know mostly. Mostly. Yeah. It's definitely a different world, but I thought it was interesting that tonight's Mischief Night.
It wasn't even on my radar, dude. I totally. I mean, if this was 20, 30 years ago, I would be on guard tonight.
Yeah, you'd be on guard. Yeah, it's like there's no kids out. I was out right before the show. I drove through the neighborhood, didn't see anybody. Nobody was in all black like ninjas. There was no eggs. There's no toilet papers in any of the trees. And I'm like, is Mischief Night even a thing anymore? It's just crazy. By the way, this is a live show tonight, guys. And I know we've got about 250 people on, but if you've got a question or comment, please send them through. I'm going to actually click on the comment section right now. So I'm going to start reading them. If you're watching tonight and you're older and you remember Mischief Night, please put in the comments some of the things that you used to do on Mischief Night. There's a Mike Shanker that just came through here, and Mike Shanker says, yeah, we used to get ketchup and a box of tampons, put the ketchup on the tampon and throw it on car windows. Mike Shanker, that's disgusting.
Yes, it is.
That's deplorable.
It's deplorable. You could tell who you're voting for.
Crazy, but it is Mischief Night, and I appreciate you guys coming on tonight. Of course, good segue. Tomorrow's Halloween, it is Halloween.
Speaking of bloody tampon, go ahead.
Speaking of bloody, and tomorrow is a Thursday.
Yes.
And Thursday nights, I love this because unlike Ike Live, where Ike Live will do maybe 1, 2, and then it could be like a year Before we do the next one, who knows? Brian always got on my shit about this, but every
It didn't work with
Thursday-
your schedule. It just
right, there works, but
wasn't
every
possible.
Thursday, occasional off day because of something or whatever. But
Yeah.
I would say for the most part, religiously every Thursday, people can expect a Bass After Dark, 9 p.m. It's like, it's like you grab your remote and you're like, yeah, it's my favorite sitcom coming on. And I honestly, I know a lot of people feel like that. I feel like that. So, dude, congrats on this amazing show you've created. I want to dive into that a little bit. And I want to start with the idea. Ken, pick this up because
that's Ken.
Yeah, pick this up for me because this is a great show. It's got a great concept and body. Where did this come from? Because Brian for years has been advocating Ken Duke needs his own show. Like I remember early Ike Live, early Bash University. Ken needs his own show. And me and Brian like, yeah, he needs his own show. Talk about how this show came up.
Yeah, Ken needs his own show, but nobody else needs Ken's show. That was kind of the problem. But no, it came from a few places. I wanted to work with Brian. I was really excited about that because, I'm a huge Ike Live fan, obviously, watched Ike Live from the very beginning. And I watched it and, I've got a critical eye for stuff like that. And
you're like, I would do this so different.
I want to get to that in a minute, but I thought, wow, I would really like to work with the most talented, most put together, most organized person on this show. But of course, Becky was not available.
Yes.
So instead, I reached out to my buddy Brian, and
Pete wouldn't answer his phone.
Yes. You finally, after you get past Eric the intern, finally there's Brian.
Yes.
The gatekeeper.
Yeah. But no, I was thrilled to work with Brian, and I didn't want to do a show like our friends do shows. I didn't want to do a show that was trying to rip off Ike Live or to rip off Bass University or to rip off Bass Talk Live. I wanted to do something different, and so I got to thinking about it. What can we do different? I said, well, what about a late night talk show vibe? What about instead of one guest where we ask that person 100 questions, we bring in 3 guests, ask them 1 question, basically. What if we throw in a top 10 list, stuff like that?
Yeah.
And I said, I said, if I can't get these 2 people I wanted involved, it wasn't going to happen. And those 2 people were Brian and our buddy Nathan Benson. I wanted Nathan to produce and engineer the show. I wanted Brian to be my co-host. And I was thrilled when they both seemed to like the idea, although neither of them, for the record, Mike, liked the title Bass After Dark. They both fought me.
Really? Wow. Well, I can tell you the title, when you say it, it's one thing. But guys, shout out to the title and the logo that has been created. Shout out. Who created that? Is that a James Riley product? Who created that thing?
Of course it is. Yes, that's a James Riley.
Shout out to James Riley. I would say, Ken, I would put myself out there and say one of the best logos, in my opinion, in the fishing industry.
I love it. I'm reaching behind myself to see if I can grab that cap off Shakespeare's head, but I can't. I love our logo. Our logo sadly is better than the show most weeks, but we're working to reach up to our logo.
It's an awesome logo. It's an awesome name. It's an awesome logo. It's awesome concept. I'm still a little shocked that you asked the worst producer in all of podcasting to be your co-host. But
notice I didn't ask him to be the producer. So give me a little credit for that, Mike. Come on.
There it goes. Show that again, Ryan. If you're watching right now, and you haven't watched this podcast, please go watch it. And guys, real quick, it is available everywhere, right? Like it got it on all the channels and all that stuff. So they can get it everywhere.
It doesn't come out purple, but it's purple.
It's awesome. I love the when you watch live, is it an animated logo? Because it's got the flicker, or I don't know if that's an effect or whatever, but
yes,
because it's supposed to be a neon light, right? It's like ding.
Yes,
might have a little bug fly in there, like a mosquito, and get zapped or something would be cool. But
thanks for noticing that, Mike.
Oh yeah. No, I think it's great. I think it's great. And by the way, you did mention something that I didn't have on my notes, but I want to talk about. As good as the show, in my opinion, and especially for me, because I travel a lot, on a plane, whatever, this, that, and I sometimes you don't have time for an hour, 2-hour podcast, but
You scroll.
you're scrolling. Dude, I laugh at the top 10 lists. Like it's one of my favorite things. Like I look more forward to that than Jay Kumar's thing that comes out. Sorry, Jay. Look more forward to that than, clicking on Bass Fan or something like that. Like
or Ronnie Moore's analysis, other hilarious things that are on the internet.
Right. Ronnie Moore, any of that. I'm very, it's funny. Whose concept was that? Ken, is that yours? Brian's like who? And then
that was Ken again.
Ken, dude, you're winning all these. And who comes up? Who comes up with that? Because honestly, it feels like it's like the writers for Leno or the writers for Letterman back in the day. It has that kind of feel. It makes me smile,
Well, we Ken takes the lead on it pretty much. We have a mother list of top 10 list ideas. How deep's that, Ken?
We got another 50 or 60 in the tank ready to roll out.
Yeah, and we'll put it out there, and then everybody just got a group chat going. Me, Ken, and Nathan, and now we got the interns involved. And everybody just comes up with their entries, and we usually end up 40, 50, and then we vote on it. Weighted voting, 10-1, tally everything up.
Brian's choices are all eliminated in this process. And he goes on a tirade questioning everyone's intelligence.
Integrity.
Integrity, quality as human
air
beings,
today,
parentage, all of that is called into question by Brian.
Yeah. Well, you should. You should. And, I think you should do that. And actually, it's a great segue to what I want to talk about next, which is.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Fast. Are we on a time limit tonight?
No, we're not. No time limit.
All right. Well, case in point. Can show like one of the first 10 shows. No, we didn't start the top 10 right off the bat, right?
I thought we did. I think we had a top 10 right off the bat.
Okay, maybe we did.
It was something that kind of came up right before we were going to do the first show.
Yeah.
If you'd asked us a week before, we would not have had the thought of doing a top 10, which obviously we ripped off from David Letterman.
Right.
But since we've got them going, I don't see us doing a show without it. I hope.
Right. It's good.
We all contribute to it. But I will say that the most savage and probably the funniest one we've ever had was submitted by none other than Brian the Carpenter. BTC, you want to share that one, or should we let that go? It was almost so harsh that I didn't think for a moment that we shouldn't do it, but I thought, man, I'm glad I'm not the voice of it.
And pretty much every week, the best ones we can't use.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they're a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just a little bit too hard hitting.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a small world in the fishing world, so
it is a small world.
But you don't want to assassinate everybody. Yeah, but it was oh God, what was this?
It was top 10 things you never hear at an MLF event.
Oh yeah. Have a safe flight, Boyd.
Fans.
That was
the enter.
Fans was one.
Yeah. But what's hilarious to me, Mike, is whenever I run into somebody who sees the show and they comment about the top 10, everybody assumes that Brian writes all of them.
Oh yeah.
All of them.
Right.
It would be a lot better if I did.
You're the scapegoat, Brian. You're the
scapegoat. I've always been. Like with Like Live, it was, with Dave or you or not Pete, but if Dave or you said something, I would hear about it.
Yeah. And at one time, let me tell you how much this is true, Ken. At one time, I had big industry people, and I won't say those names, but, people in the industry calling me, texting me saying, is Brian the Carpenter that account? What was the account, Brian, the one that you got pinned for? Oh. It was one of the most controversial,
troll accounts.
Troll account that fishing had years ago, and I can't remember her name, but
was it the other Ducket? Might have been that.
Nah, one. I don't think it was something else. But you were blamed for that as well. Like, so people think you're a nasty person.
And that's the secret reason I asked Brian to do the show with me, Mike. I knew if I ever went
Scapegoat.
too far, I could say, oh, that's Brian. That has nothing to do with me.
Yeah,
Fall guy.
the fall guy. But
Yeah.
but getting back to what I was getting ready to say is, I think it's refreshing now in this era of the sport. Like when I look back, dude, people stayed in their lane and never questioned anything because it was unethical. It wasn't right. It's not what Southern gentlemen do. It wasn't the code. People were they stayed in their lane. They were very cautious. And I love that you guys, of course, you guys have a lot of educational topics as well. But my favorites, and I'm just being honest, my favorite shows are the ones where, you push the envelope a little bit and you voice opinions that might not be the norm, right? You're having a voice that's different in the fishing industry. And I love that. Has any of that come back to haunt either of you guys at this stage of the show? And by the way, how many shows are we in? Because I don't even know that answer. Are we a year in, a year and a half in? Ken?
We're a year in next week, basically.
Hey!
So yeah, we're pretty excited. So it's going to be our anniversary show. And I don't know about PTC, but I haven't had too many repercussions about it. Although I will say that I know that people who used to walk up to me at events to say, hey, maybe don't do it anymore. And I think whereas before we started the show, only half of the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame board hated me. Now I'm up to 100%. But nothing that really bothers me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was going to say, go ahead, Mike. Finish your thought. And then...
No, I was just going to echo and say that I think it's great. Like, honesty in this sport is so hard to come by. Giving your opinion in this sport is so hard to come by. And so that to me trumps all that. If you do have a little bit of hate mail, it trumps all that.
But you two guys forged the path for that. I wonder if we would be able to do Bass After Dark if, 11, 12 years ago, you guys hadn't started Ike Live. Somebody had to be the trailblazer. And I think you guys set the stage for a lot of what's out there today.
Yeah. Thank God for alcohol. We have alcohol to thank for that. a lot of
civilization began with distillation.
That's funny.
Brian, you want to answer that?
Yes.
Have you had any pushback?
I've got a couple phone calls recently.
Yeah.
After the Hall of Fame show.
After the Hall of Fame show. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm sorry to interrupt again, but that's so hilarious to me because I'm usually the one making the outrageous comment or the comment that people take too seriously. But Brian is the one who gets the calls. Just like he's the scapegoat on the top 10, he's the one that people confront about all this other stuff.
Same as Ike Live. Same as
so
Ike Live. It would be Mike or Dave that said it, and I would get the call.
I never hear from these people. So as far as I know, everybody loves me.
It's so good. I do have to catch up on a couple of these comments. I see two that catch my eye. One is from MD Basson, says, pass the Diddy oil. Just thought that was a funny comment to put through.
Wow.
But I see a lot of comments coming through. I'm just scrolling here and I see about maybe 8 or 10 of them. Really, they want to talk about and probably one of your most famous, but maybe not in your opinion, one of your most famous episodes, which was the Randy Blockett, Ben Milliken episode. Okay.
Right, before we do that, I got one thing, and I want a ruling from you, Mike.
Yeah.
Ken, you got to help me set the stage here. Be fair about it. So this is one of our early shows, early top 10 lists, and the topic was top 10 college courses every angler should take, something like that, right? And it was a pretty good one. And my entry of Stop, Drop, and Roll with Pete Glusick, to me, he had just had the most watched video in bass fishing up until the walleye cheaters, and felt falling off the boat on live TV, rolling off the boat. Yeah. And I got outvoted. It was just me, Ken, and Nathan at that time, and they went with cooking classes or something with Sherry Van Dam or cooking cookies, which I don't know.
Mike, he will not
I'm
let this
still
go.
mad about that.
He will not let this go. I don't want anybody from New Jersey ever to talk about Southerners not letting the Civil War go until Brian the Carpenter lets this one go.
Never.
Well, I think you could revisit some of those top 10 lists as time goes on, you know, and maybe it's a second version. And Brian, you could add that then, you know.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll never forget.
Yeah.
I will
So
never forget.
I do want to get back to the Block It thing, and not necessarily talking about that show, but my question is this, and I know, like, if I was to pose the same question to Brian about Ike Live in the beginning, I know the answer, but you guys are a year old next week. Have you learned things? Have you developed? Is it a different show now than it was during your first, second, third Ben Milliken, Randy Block It episode? Is it a different show, and have you learned things about how to run how to do this podcast?
Is it a different show? I mean, I think we had delusions of grandeur, you know, a little bit coming in, like, you know, we'll keep the identities secret until showtime, and there's multiple reasons for that, but
Yeah,
you know, and we'll have spirited debate with opposing viewpoints on topics. Not in bass fishing.
right.
You know what I mean? Like, one of those members from that show won't answer our calls anymore.
Right.
And if you continue to do shows like that, you get nobody to come on.
Right.
You know, guys don't want to be put in that spot. And I get it. Like, you're their survival, their ability to pay the bills, put food on the table is sponsor related, you know, and that's a tricky thing.
Right.
You know, in an industry, it's loosened up some, but you get penalized for having an opinion and being vocal. Not many people can get away with it.
Right.
You've been pretty good about it, but you know, you've gotten pushback from things, and yeah, so we learned that, you know, that's, we had to evolve some things a little bit and step into Pete's territory, you know, do bad university.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. What are you doing things now, Ken, in today's shows that you didn't do in the early ones? Have you evolved already in the course of 12 months?
I can say confidently, Mike, in my 62 years, I've learned very little and have grown very little as a human being. So I'm probably not that different. I think that it's a tougher show to do than at first I realized. And that's despite the fact that you know, everybody is wildly supportive on this show. We have a phenomenal team of people. But getting guests, when you have 3 guests every show, and you got to get them all available at 9:00 on a Thursday night, and they all have to have good connectivity and blah 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 blah. That's a bit.
And not just 3 guests, but the 3 best on that for that question.
Yeah.
You know, with very little exception.
Yeah.
And that is very, very tiresome.
I'll say a weird thing. And I hadn't thought about it this way before, but the toughest thing about the show would seem to be the easiest, which is just lining up guests. But that's the toughest part of the show, because we're very demanding about getting the people we think are going to bring the most to the table. And for anybody who wonders why we don't publicize who's coming on the show, it's because quite often the people who are the best choices for that show, you've never heard of them.
Right.
And they would not bring an audience in, and we want people to give them a fair hearing to see what they have to say and where they come from. So what I thought would be the easiest part is actually the toughest part.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think it was you that proposed, you know, keeping, their identities locate, whatever it was, you know. I knew we would be sacrificing, like we had Milliken and Block It on and didn't get promotion, you know, leading up to the show. So I knew there would be some loss there, but I felt like if we got established, just the not knowing, you know, who the guests are, is cool. You know, once you get people's trust, I don't know. I thought that was cool.
And Mike, you and Brian and Pete and Dave and Becky, what you did with Ike Live was kind of an inspiration for that too, because ultimately your audience wasn't tuning in to see who the guests were. They were there for that environment you created, that culture you created, and that atmosphere. So I wanted us to be like that to a degree. I wanted them to tune in because they knew we would have a great conversation, even if they never heard of the guests.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's working. I think it's working. I love the premise. I love the mystique of not knowing. And Brian, nothing against you on this one, but
East Coast Hammers is still waiting for his gift from the original Iaconelli.
the dream killer, is still in possession of a lot of gifts.
Yeah.
Ken, I nothing against Brian, but I love your insight. Like, what makes the show for me is, dude, you're the smartest dude in all of bass fishing when it comes to understanding the whole bubble. And I love that your touch to the show is special. So thank you for what you do in the show. It's pretty awesome.
That's
Mike, I'm going to warn you right now. He's the worst person I've ever met at accepting a compliment. The absolute worst. Go ahead, Ken.
Thank you, Mike. That's way too kind. I don't deserve that, but I will tell you that I am actually a pretty small part of the show. I'm mostly a stuffed smoking jacket and ascot. My primary. I'm mostly wardrobe and eye candy.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing great.
Yeah.
By the way, let me throw in this real quick. Keep the questions and comments coming. There's some great ones coming through, and I'm seeing a lot about the show. I see a Terry Battisti. Frank wants to know, where's Terry at? Is Terry your backup now? I'm seeing all kinds of cool comments come through, but keep them coming through. Of course, we want to hear from you. But I did want to run down just a little list here. I just, of course, I told you already, my favorite shows are the ones that geared toward the other I don't want to say controversy, but the other topics in fishing, not necessarily how to fish a worm. I like the other ones. So here's a little rundown of some of my favorite shows. I wanted to put this down here. Is pro bass fishing a good career choice? Great show. Too much drama in bass fishing. I thought that was an amazing one. Is bass fishing a sport? People talk about it as a sport, and us as athletes all the time. Of course, the Hall of Fame show, even though it was on the night of the Hall of Fame, I thought it was a great show.
We got heat for that, and Terry Battisti got cursed out.
I'm sure. And then, of course, some of the stuff you've done on Ford Face Sonar, but a lot of great current topics on what's going on in the world today and in the world of fishing today. And I love that. I love that. It all really makes sense when you say that list and then you look at maybe the last, let's call it, month of announcements in the fishing world.
Yeah.
And a tremendous amount of turmoil, change, announcements that are very odd. Before we get into some specifics, I want to know, what do you guys make of this right now? And it directly ties to a lot of those topics, right? Is bass fishing a sport? Is this a bad career choice? Right? A lot of these are relevant. Like, what the hell is going on right now in pro bass fishing?
I think it's a microcosm of what's going on in the world right now, honestly. Like,
okay.
It's just I don't know. It's a twilight zone.
All right. So you're saying Hydra Collider, split the atom, nothing was the same since.
Yeah. Fall of the Cabal, all that.
Fall of the Cabal, right?
Yeah.
Ken, what's your take on this madness right now?
Oh man, I can't keep up. It's so amazingly frustrating on a lot of fronts, but mostly I think it's much jabbering about nothing. That's what I keep coming back to, is a lot of this controversy is really about nothing. And I find that kind of frustrating, but at the same time, if that's what people are interested in and that's what people want to talk about and listen to, then if we expect to have an audience, we have to address it. And then the next question for me is far more interesting. And that is, who do we bring on the show to talk about it? Who's going to bring an interesting insight and something of value and who actually has a meaningful perspective. And that's where I enjoy our show. Because, yeah, we're talking about some of the same topics that everybody else is, but by God, we're bringing better people to the table to discuss it. And that's what I like about what we're doing.
Yeah. You're flushing it out in a unique way. And I would agree, Brian, you said, or Ken, I can't remember, one of you said it's more of a current, the times right now. I would agree with that because I'll make an analogy to my YouTube. And Brian, you know this, told you this before, but Ken, I work really, really, really hard on filming Going Ikes, which is me actually out there fishing. I work really hard on shop videos and trying to teach and instruct. And when I post a video that's a Karen or, something controversial or, dude, they're the ones that get the millions of views. And it's almost, I want to say depressing, but it's almost depressing,
It is. I get it. And your work is the very best out there. You're educating people. You're entertaining people. It's what you do so remarkably well. It's what Bass University does so well. But yeah, it's a shame when so much of the traffic comes not from the people who are really good at practicing the sport or who are really good at teaching it. They find their audience too. But so often the guys who really explode and get traction quickly are the ones who are just better at feeding the beast with controversy and hot takes and garbage, speculation. Right. And I find that really frustrating. And we don't, Bass After Dark, we try not to go down that path. We don't tell you who the guests are because we want to be anti-clickbait on some level. And
it kills us with thumbnails too.
It kills us. It kills us so many ways in terms of presenting our show.
Thumbnails. Yeah.
Just question marks the whole time on the thumbnail. Question marks. Purple question marks.
That was me.
That's a commitment.
That was my greatest contribution to this whole thing.
No.
It's the purple question mark.
No.
Be right back. Got to freshen up.
BTC is, I've told Brian this many times. I've told a lot of people this many times. No BTC, no Bass After Dark. But yeah, I find that really frustrating. And I admire what you've always brought to the game, Mike, through education, not only through your own YouTube stuff and all the content you create on your own, but all the stuff that is done through Bass University. Obviously, your contributions through the Ike Foundation, the stuff you do on Ike Live, which is entertaining and inspiring and so often educational. But man, you and your team, which is obviously Becky's a huge part of that.
Yeah,
bringing so much to the table and showing a lot the rest of us a path forward. And we're grateful, Brian and I and Nathan and Jacob and Justin, our interns, that we've been able to find a path that kind of does not trod upon the people we like and admire, our friends, but does give us a unique place to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate all those kind words. I want to. I think the best way to talk about this is maybe like to look back in the past. And like when I look back, those Ike Live in the beginning, call it 10, 11 years ago, was a phenomenal time in the sport. You can look back further than that. There was another phenomenal time in the sport where there was growth and new opportunity and all these things were popping up and it was almost amazing. I just got back from the Toyota Owners Tournament, and it was one of the most eye-opening couple days that I've had on how bad business is in the fishing industry right now. And let me say, what a great time to start a new podcast.
You told me that.
Yeah, right. Perfect time, guys. But it is a unbelievably terrible time right now. And I want to make sure I say this because I think a lot of people watching and listening right now might think, oh my gosh, it's the glory days of bass fishing. But it's the toughest I've ever seen it. Ken, I would compare this. I would put it over this, but I would say it's comparable or at a worse level than 2008, in my opinion. And it's tough to swallow because I'm at the Toyota Owners event. I'm hearing from my peers that, oh my God, I got this phone call the other day. I lost this sponsorship. Oh, did you hear? This guy lost 2 in the same day, his title sponsors. And it's like everywhere you go, I'm hearing this. It's like this ridiculously tough time right now. I guess the first question to you guys is why? What's going on? Is it politics? Is it forward-facing sonar? Is it? Well, I mean, I don't know. What?
Yes, let's blame that.
Why is it this bad right now?
BTC, if I'll jump in if you don't mind. I think it's obviously many things. It's not just one thing, but for one thing, our sport hasn't grown significantly since the 80s or early 90s. When you talk about the glory days of the sport, that was actually about 35 years ago. This year companies will sell maybe 7,000 or 8,000 bass boats, trailers, outboards. 35 years ago, late 80s, early 90s, that number would have been 30 to 50,000. There were more people fishing in the mid 80s than there are fishing today, and more of those people identified as bass anglers. Forget keeping up with population growth, which has been exploding, of course, in the U.S., not to mention all the people who have come in through the border and so forth. But we're not growing the sport of fishing at anything approaching the way population is growing. There are about 50 million anglers in the U.S., and we gained 8 million anglers in 2020 due to COVID. We have since lost about 7 million of those.
Wow.
And when the economy gets tough and people are out of work, quite often they go to things like fishing, which is not only entertainment, but it can provide food for the table. But as soon as the economy gets people back to work, they abandon recreational sports like fishing because they're trying to make up for maybe what they lost during those tougher economic times. So,
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ken.
Yeah.
Mike, do you have control of Ken's mic volume?
I don't have control of anything here.
Okay.
My bad.
They're saying you're popping and cracking.
I think you sound all right, Ken.
I know, but I'm reading the comments on the
I
thing.
know.
All right, back after it. Sorry.
I think
Well,
so.
I would say another big challenge we have apart is just generally growing the sport. I hated that you and Becky didn't make it to the ASA Summit a couple of weeks ago in San Diego. I know your schedule just didn't allow it. But it's a great place to learn about kind of the 30,000-foot view of American sport fishing. And one of the things you learn there is that we're not growing the sport, and things like high school and college fishing, I would say, are not growing the sport at all. Not at all. They're getting these kids too late. 90% of license sales in the U.S., the people who buy licenses started fishing before they were 12 years old. There's not a lot of programs out there outside the Ike Foundation that are appealing and targeting a lot of those kids. So kudos to the Ike Foundation for getting a lot of youngsters involved in fishing. If you don't get these people by the time they're 12, by and large, we don't get them at all.
Right.
And then you have the big organizations out there, the big tournament and publishing organizations like Bass, FLW, MLF, and so forth. They stopped doing stories about beginning angling, about buying a used boat, maybe about fishing farm ponds or creeks 30, 35 years ago. Now you don't see those entities publishing stories about bass fishing unless you're in a $100,000 boat with a $500 rod and a $800 reel and the kind of barriers to entry that I would never have been able to surmount when I was a kid.
Right.
I would have never been able to get involved in the sport if it involved all of that. And we're not fostering that kind of growth among young people.
Right.
So mostly this is self-inflicted.
Yeah. All good points. All good points. And you're right, Ken. I think you're right. I do want to echo real quick the fact that I don't think it's one thing. I think people have a tendency to pinpoint one thing. I think it's a culmination of a lot of things that's creating this, you know. It is an election year. I think the economy is a little strange. I think you mix those two things with all these other things, and that's where we're at. I think this is a good time, real quick, to talk about the big announcement today. I said it, you know, within the last 2 months, there's been so many big announcements, but one today coming from Bass. And, you know, of course, I'll actually, while I'm here, I can pull it up. I can literally paraphrase it, basically it was, Bass making an announcement saying this is going to be the biggest thing to happen in bass fishing ever. It's a game changer. And the headlines blared. The thing that you saw when it first came out was no entry fees in the elites. And a big,
Mike,
giant,
did you know it was coming?
I did not know it was coming.
I think this is the one.
Wow.
I think this is the best job they've ever done at keeping a secret.
Yep.
Usually everybody knows about anything weeks ahead of time.
What about the fact that Matt Robertson is an alien? What about that? That one's not out.
That's probably true.
Probably.
That's probably true. We'll have to get him on one of the shows to find out. But
He's
no, this I had no idea. In fact, the timing of this, just to let you guys know, Bass Today had a sort of an internal summit for all of its guys. Open invite to all of the existing elites and the guys that qualified to have a sort of a seminar series online to help the guys with navigating social media and sales. And literally, Becky and I were on it. We were very interested in it. And shout out to Bass for doing that. That was awesome. Thank you guys for doing that. I know you guys are listening, so thank you for doing that. But literally, I mean, that thing ended. Brian, we clicked off. It's on a Zoom, so it's like, okay, bye. And we're like, okay, we click off of it. And then it was like, boom. Like it was literally. So none of us knew about it. None of us knew it was coming.
That's wild. They let you find out via social media.
Via social media. So that's telling of some other problems that maybe we'll get to. But at first glance, and even Becky and I, at very first glance, my eyes did get big, okay? Did get big for a second. Like, finally, whoa, But give me your guys' initial reaction when you first read it. And I'd like to hear from both you. Ken, Brian.
I called my buddy. I said, "Who's been filling your head with lies? Because there's no way that's true."
So you didn't see it. You heard about it and then called a friend. Okay.
Well, yeah, I heard about it. I'm like, no, there's no way. They don't have the they just don't have it to do something baller like that. But they did.
They did.
Right.
Ken, first opinions when you saw it for the first time without diving into it.
I wondered how much of it was a reaction to traction being gained by some other leagues, including the NPFL. I wondered where they're coming up with the money to do this, because obviously certain aspects of their business are not doing that great. And I wondered how much of it was a strategic move to try to appeal to anglers, in light of the fact that a lot of the anglers didn't feel like the forward-facing ruling was going to make much difference. Right. So I came up from all those angles, and I did a little bit of the number crunching and looking at it and trying to get a better feel for what's going on. But I guess like all things for me, it's I realize it's rare for me to be able to put my finger on one thing and say, oh, that's the answer. I'm not that smart. I have to identify 3 or 4 things that maybe contribute.
Yeah. I will say this real quick, and I want to pull this up, because I think it's kind of funny, if I can find it here. Oh, here it goes. So when this first happened, Becky's reading it, and we're reading it together, and my eyes are like, this is what a lot of guys prayed for. A day in professional bass fishing where the top pros would qualify for the top circuit in the world and be thrust into a profession with no entry fees. And that, I was so positive. Ken, Brian, I was so positive, so fucking positive. And then Becky and I have this thing on our phones, and we actually have some of the old ones. You remember the old Casios? I think I had the watch, and I also had the one where you could do the square roots and everything. I had that one in high school and college. But we have an iPhone. We have a smartphone. And it has a calculator on it. And after doing some math, it was strange because things sort of didn't add up on one side. Did you guys dive into it enough to really start to understand what this meant from a standpoint of money?
I did some digging on that, and a couple things about it. Well, first of all, let me back up just a little bit, because really my first take on it, Mike, was I thought it was hilarious that they were making such a big deal out of it. You know, professional bass fishing will never be the same, ever. It's a huge statement in this case, but true. You know, and it goes like that on and on. I'm thinking, well, this is really newsworthy to about 200 people. You know, the guys fishing the elites and some guys who want to fish the elites. But to the rest of us, it is inconsequential. I mean, no offense to anybody out there, but if I'm a fan of professional bass fishing, I do not care what is paid for entry fees. I do not care what Shohei Ohtani makes. I do not care how much it costs to make a movie that I go to see. None of that bothers me at all. None of that impacts me in any meaningful way. So I thought, wow, what a bombastic and over-the-top way to introduce this.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? But I realized that the anglers care very, very much. And when I started looking at it and the breakdown of the payouts and stuff like that, what it seems to me is that unless you're going to finish at the very, very top, say in the top 20 places beginning next year with no entry fee tournaments, you're not making any money. And they gave an interesting stat in there that I thought was a pretty interesting way to put it for people who are not good at math. They said they did some analysis here. Here it is. Of the anglers who have fished the past 4 years, 85% of them would have fared better under the no entry fee model in at least one of those years. That's basically saying that 20% of guys would have done better in any given year. That's not good.
85% would do better in one of those years.
One of 4 years. Really? Is that the best you got?
Well, yeah, that gets past most people, though, because
personal foul.
Yeah.
But that bugged me. And then I looked at how the numbers were really breaking down. And hey, I don't want to take away from Bass for finding a way to come up with no entry fee tournaments. Kudos to them for that. That's been a hill that Major League Fishing climbed for a year or so, but then had to backtrack. But here's what's happening from what I can see on the BASS end of things. If you are finishing from 11th to 75th, which is the bulk of the field, really, they have taken $381,125 away from you. Granted, some of that was your own money. Granted. But everybody who goes into the Elite Series is a gambler. Everybody who fishes professionally is a gambler to a degree. Mike Iaconelli, when he fishes Elite Series, notwithstanding the sponsorships, the business relationships you have, but if I look at you just as a professional angler, you're a gambler. You're betting on yourself to perform better than these other guys. And that just took away a real chunk of what you had to win, because now you better finish top 10 to make meaningful money. And and I can tell you historically that if a guy averages for an entire season, if a guy averages a top 20 finish for an entire season, there's a name for him. His name is Angler of the Year. That's the only guy who averages a top 20 finish for an entire season. You average top 20 for the season, you are just about guaranteed Angler of the Year. You average top 30, you're in the hunt. So it's going to mean that a lot of guys are not going to get meaningful money. They're not going to pay entry fees. That's nice. I also worry about the negotiations with sponsors. You know, a lot of sponsors are looking at this and saying,
"Oh, you're stealing my
point, Ken." Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, BTC. You're up.
Yeah, what Ken's about to say. That was my idea.
Go for it, man. Sorry.
No, I won't do it justice.
Mike can mute my microphone now.
No. Go ahead, Ken.
No, go ahead.
I had to speak in and say something. It was
No, it's a good point. Go for it.
Fuck.
Well, I want to know, Brian. You got to tell me now.
Well, you know, I don't know exactly how your guys' contracts are written, but a lot of times it's you know, they're going to cover your entry fees, right? And maybe that's beginner stuff at lower levels, but a lot of times, like, yeah, the sponsors are covering my entry fees. Well, they don't have entry fees now.
Yeah.
And what if that's in the contract? I mean, that sounds extreme that, you know, you're now signed up to work for nothing, but I can, you know, I can actually see it as being more of a bargaining or a leveraging tool from the sponsor end, you know, than a way to screw people out of money. But it just, I don't know, it just doesn't bode well.
Yeah.
You know, to put some numbers to it, one thing I did see, Pat Schlapper, right before we went live, I saw his post.
Yo, Pat.
Schlapper.
Pat. Yeah.
Hey, Schlappy.
Yo, Pat.
You know, he did a quick breakdown of, I guess, what he made last year. He plugged his finishes from either this past season or the one before into the 2025 model, and you know, he said he'd make about $20,000 less. And he's, you know, consistently finishes pretty high.
And Pat had a good year last year. One of his best years on record last year.
Yeah. And
right.
He'll make a lot less.
He'll make a lot less. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, you didn't even have to have the calculator, but I think
I think the other side of it is it you know, it's going to benefit guys in the lower half.
In the lower half of
standings.
They'll be bled dry less quickly.
They'll be bled dry less quickly.
Maybe,
but they will still be bled dry.
Yeah. But less quickly. So it's more like this is UNICEF, you know, everybody wins. You know, kind of levels out. It's a little bit communist, communistic.
I can tell you, just looking at those numbers, you know, just echoing what Ken said, when you have a really, really good derb, you have a good tournament, okay? I'm looking at these numbers. You come in 26th place out of 110, whatever that number ends up being. Dude, 26th place. Solid as hell. Your payout is $1,500.
Yeah.
At the highest level.
At the highest tournament in the world. Big bass, big stage, big dreams.
Little
not
check.
Big, not big payout.
Small check.
How about this one, Ken? You come in 40th place. Pretty good tournament. You make $500. That's filling the boat up 3 days.
Why are they
filling your boat
that far? If they're only going to pay $500 for that spot, why don't they stop at 27, 28?
Yeah.
Why don't they stop at 1,000? Anything less than 1,000, I think, just doesn't. That's not appealing to anybody.
Yeah. I know it sounds like a chipmunk. Here's another fact that I'll rustle off for you.
What do you got in your pocket, Ken?
I don't know. It's like a mouse.
It's my headphone cord is rubbing against my microphone. Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, that's all right.
I will fix that.
It's because the jacket's velour. Brian Carpenter, did you realize that with this new premise, you could come in 41st place in every tournament? If you came in 41st in every tournament, you would qualify for the Bassmaster Classic. So you'd make that $10,000, right? Last place in a classic pays $10,000. You would qualify for the Bassmaster Classic, biggest tournament in the world. You get your $10,000 check for that tournament, but you never make a check during the break. You would go 9 events without making a paycheck, but yet you qualify for the Bassmaster Classic.
That's wild.
You know, going back to a comment that, well, I want to come to this in a minute, but you know, we talk about payouts. If you look, and they're talking about how they're adding $28.5 million have been paid out for the Bassmaster Classic over its entirety of 54 years. That's 40% of what Shohei Ohtani makes this year.
Ouch.
Wow.
Oh, and that's before his World Series money, by the way.
Oh, ouch.
40% of what he makes this year.
That hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike didn't actually laugh at that one.
I didn't laugh at that one. That one actually hurts.
Sorry, Mike.
I won the Classic when it was 500,000. So I feel like I'm a good part of that chunk. So thank you.
But I think the line in the release that made me scratch my bald head more than any other was right toward the end. It said that these changes and the no entry fee stuff should create even more spectacular bass fishing action. And I'm wondering, how is it going to do that? What are you going to do, Mike? Now it's about the entry
I don't
fee.
remember that part. I think I was so pissed off at that part. I phased it out. So
Yeah, you blacked out.
I must have blacked out. Yeah.
Mike, that's my question for you. What are you going to do, brother, to make this bass fishing even more exciting?
Let me.
Well, hold on. Now here's another thing. Fines have to go down.
Oh,
the fines have to go down, right?
Got to go down.
I don't know. That may be part of their revenue plan, BTC.
Or up.
Oh.
Maybe they'll go up.
They may go way up.
It's hard to say.
You yell at a dog in 2024, you are in deep
you're
caca.
Yeah, don't misgender that dog.
So I do want to step back, and I'm seeing a lot of comments coming in, and I see a lot of people sort of realizing what's going on right now. I saw one comment say smoke and mirrors. I saw another one, something about piss on your leg. I don't know. I've seen some interesting comments come through, but what I wanted to say is I really, again, the beginning of that press release, reading it, my eyes lit up. Dude, that was the right track, but the other portion, it was missing. So, right, they're basically taking the same pool of money and doing some fiddly stuff with it. Actually, it's a little less on our end, but it's the same pool of money. The answer was remove the entry fees and leave the payouts the way they were. And the way that, and listen, this is just simple. The way that you finance this is through sales.
50-50s.
Okay? Listen, not 50-50s, but regular sales. Listen, Bright, I told you how they announced this, okay? They announced it literally after our Zoom series where they were encouraging us and helping us. Thank you, Bass, for doing the seminar series, honestly, on how to sell. We should be going out and selling. Yes, we should. I have a sales team here. We sell. I sell. Bass should sell the difference of that money, right? What's the exact number, Ken, of entry fees? Is it 4.5 million? Is that correct?
Yeah, that'd be it. Yep.
Go out
at 5,000. I don't know if it's exactly 5,000 per derby, but yeah. And that's at 100 anglers. If they go 110, it's more.
Listen to me. In the mainstream world, I'm not talking about endemic sponsorships because we preface this by saying how tough it is in the fishing environment. But if you are the biggest bass tournament in the world, if you're the biggest stage and all these numbers are correct, Brian, they should be selling to make up that difference. Not selling to Mercury and Yamaha and Garmin. I think they sold to Garmin. But they should be selling to the big companies out there. That's simple sales. Simple sales.
But there's a major roadblock there, Mike.
Tell
and
me
that is that bass fishing does not reach 1 million people. There is no piece of bass fishing content, whether you're talking about television or magazine or anything else, that reaches an audience of 1 million. And most of your non-endemics, your big boys, your automobile manufacturers, your pharmaceuticals, things like that, they insist on having an audience of at least 1 million before they will even take your call. And that's why Bass and everybody else has never been able to really maintain a big non-endemic. Now, Bass has had Toyota for over 20 years now. That was a very cool and very unique situation where Toyota had these terrific trucks and people weren't taking them seriously as tow vehicles and outdoor recreational things. So Toyota jumped on board. It's been very successful for both. And Toyota is, I believe, still by far Bass's biggest sponsor. But they've never been able to keep anybody else on board for very long as a non-endemic.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, but I would also say, and we could argue this to the end of the world, but I think there are other ways to sell. And I think that number, listen, if you're placing a Super Bowl ad, if you're buying a Super Bowl ad, yes, you want that number. But like Toyota, I think there are a lot of companies that would benefit from a relationship with bass fishing.
I agree.
There's grassroots marketing, there's backdoor marketing, there's all these different ways. My opinion, I think it's a sales effort that's being lost. And that's how you make it up. So I think the direction was right. I think the delivery was wrong. And I want to get into this next part now. And I won't specifically. Good, my phone died, so I can't do it. I won't specifically bring up names and emails and texts and calls. Brian the Carpenter, Ken Duke, I have never, minus about 4 weeks ago when Bass announced the no information rule. That went pretty crazy. But today, in this 9-hour span, dude, I can tell you that phone has been ringing and ringing and beeping and beeping, and emails have been pinging from the elites that are mad, that are unhappy.
Did any of them apologize for not signing up when you guys tried to union?
Well, listen,
Form a union.
it's a great little push there, Brian, because what they're saying is, dude, it's like getting punched when you're not ready for it, right? Dude, it's like getting a right hook and you don't see it coming. It's another one of these things where, dude, why were we not
consulted?
Why weren't we surveyed? Why wasn't there something here? There's that kind of anger right now in these texts and calls that I'm receiving. And I haven't heard this in a long time since the MLF split, but I'm seeing and reading words and texts from our guys that are saying, is this the time? What do we need to do? Do you think and this is all hypothetical, right? Ken, Brian, I want to get your opinion. Hypothetically, if the guys stood up together next week and said, enough is enough, would Bass listen? What would Bass do? Would they go forward?
I mean, they came back. They immediately retracted the no info rule, so it's a possibility. There's a precedent set there.
So you believe, Brian, that if the anglers bonded together and drew a line in the sand?
Yeah. I got a question. What is their motivation for this? Because basically it's not their money.
I don't know.
Right.
Brian,
Like they just almost like they made a decision for you guys. You guys were gambling for your own money, and they just said, you're not going to do that. Like,
dude,
I'm just curious
I don't know the motivation, because some of those texts, and Ken, you can understand the frustration from these guys, right?
Absolutely.
Like if it all ended for me today, I'd be okay. A lot of these guys won't. And I'm sad about that. Listen, a lot of these guys in their texts said, why are they doing this to us? Like they were the words, Brian. The words were,
yeah.
Why are they almost like a persecution?
Yes.
Like, why are they doing, like, who has it out for us? That were some of the exact words that came through from these guys.
Well, Ken, can you put your finger on what their possible benefit would have been is to Bass to do this?
I think they think it's a great PR move among the anglers. I think it's a way. I think Bass. I mean, I've been in a lot of meetings with a lot of different leagues through the years, and I don't want to take anything away from Bass for finding a way to create no entry fee tournaments. Do I think they've necessarily done it in a way that's going to benefit the field at large? I am not so sure about that, but I don't want to take anything away from them for creating no entry fee tournaments. What I will say is that has always confounded me about BASS is that there are opportunities to be transparent in your business dealings. There are opportunities to consult with the anglers that cause no harm to the league and can only help you, and yet they choose not to do that. And that leads to a lot of those 180-degree turnarounds, the release that goes out on Tuesday and says one thing, then another release on Thursday that says the opposite. I think that creates a lot of problems for them. And I think that if they would be a little more transparent, they could probably avoid a lot of these things. The fact that an announcement of this magnitude comes where you're dealing with angler money, you're not really talking so much about company money, but angler money more.
Yeah, angler money.
Why not involve the anglers in this move? Where is the harm?
That's what I'm kind of tripping on right now. Like,
that's what's confounding to me.
Yeah.
I want to say to the guys who were saying, why do they have it out for us? I don't know that. I don't believe that. I don't think that the league has it out for them. I think. Well, I used to tell guys when I worked for Bass, I said, never assume evil when stupidity will explain it. And I still think that's true in a lot of transactions like this, or naivete, or arrogance, or something else. I don't think that that BASS has it out for the anglers. I think maybe they were trying to compensate for a forward-facing rule that wasn't very well received. I think maybe they're seeing pressure from other leagues that are attracting anglers right now. I think they may have made a misstep by not involving some of the anglers when it is the anglers' money that they're really talking about here. And it does hit the anglers in a sense if you finish that 11 to 40th or 11 to 75th spot. But I don't think Bass sees it, and I don't think Bass will react to it I think Bass will react to it by saying, oh my God, can you believe it? They think we've got it out for them when we've just said they don't have to pay entry fees anymore. And I also try to understand that perspective.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And again, Ken, when I started reading that press release, my eyes lit up, and I had hope that I hadn't had in a lot of years, and I was excited, and it just, the roller coaster went down. But
Ken, how many people are signed up to fish on PFL next year, approximately? All right, what was your roster this year?
This year, I think it started at 125. I believe that NPFL will have no trouble filling their field of 130 anglers next year. I'm not at liberty to discuss a lot of that, but I can tell you that there are plenty of applications that I hope will go through, and I expect NPFL to have a full field and maybe even more than a full field.
Yeah, and FLW never had problems filling a field, right?
There is an inexhaustible supply of guys who want to be Mike Iaconelli.
That's scary.
They'll never
have a mustache like me, though, unless they're Shaw Grigsby. So,
well, exactly. I mean, you're leading the way in mustache. There's so many other things too. But yeah, seems to be an inexhaustible supply of guys who want to be Bass pros. It's hard to say that it's necessarily a really savvy business decision to go out there and be a Bass pro. You better have some skills beyond fishing if you want to do that.
Yeah. Word. Real quick, Bobby Colson has been smoking some funny comments through. I want to just read this one. Pro bass fishing is now like the WNBA without Caitlin. Wow. Shout out to Bobby.
A lot of lesbians or what?
Caitlin Clark was good for one team. Let's keep in mind that she jacked up the ratings for one team. I'm not sure she did anything across the board for the WNBA. Maybe she did. She probably did overall.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
She was a revolution, man.
Yeah, this is all just very mind-blowing to me, Bri, the last month or so of what's happening here. You take that and the state of the sport and all that, and it's hard not to be a little miffed and depressed. But
oh yeah, I devoted 10 years of my life to Ike Live and spent every episode stuck behind that counter. I get a couple words in. Yeah, I get a couple words in each show, and that was about it. Finally get my chance. Here I am going to be highlighted on there, and they go and do the shit. Now the whole damn show's about this bullshit.
Yeah, but you got a chance to talk about how you stole the inflatable Halloween decorations and destroyed them when you were a kid. So that was big.
I got that moment. 10 years invested.
One Halloween decoration to wit.
By the way, Mike, I owe you a thanks for breaking in BTC as a podcast animal and media personality. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Brian, I know here's the thing. This is a great opportunity because I get to look you in the eye digitally, even though we're 20 minutes away by drive.
Look me into the eyes.
You have become an amazing personality. Like I can remember, Brian, like I look back and remember when I first brought the idea to you, you're like, what? Get the fuck out. You were like, no. I'm a carpenter. I don't do it. But then it warmed up a little bit. And then like, I remember the episodes where you were kind of sweating and,
oh yeah.
And you're a character in yourself in the industry now with great insight, and I love your take. Ken, you have a take that is different than Brian's, very valuable,
Right, based on math and facts.
But here's the thing,
and
Brian. What I think people love about your insight and what you're saying, and I encourage everybody, give me your opinion as you're commenting, but you're the average man. And that's an important
motherfucker.
Well, that's it. No, I'm just saying that's an important insight. You're the regular dude. You're everybody's friend. You're the next door neighbor. You're the guy that's fixing the guy's house. That's actually what you do. Like, you're the regular dude, and it's important to hear things from that person. You know?
Yeah, I still view it as a fan of the sport. I just have a little bit more of an inside view of it now, but I try to continue that viewpoint of being a fan, and
Sean,
average, just trying to be average.
Sean, real quick, just came up with a comment. Sean said, I bet Ike and KVD could buy Bass together. Laugh out loud. Man, listen, I don't think if you got 10 of the top guys in the sport together, we'd have enough money to buy Bass. But if there's any multimillionaires, billionaires, if Bill Gates is watching, I know he's part of the Illuminati, but if Bill Gates is watching, we'll take some money. We'll buy Bass. We'll give it a shot.
Yeah, lure them in there. Lure them in.
I think they have a wildly inflated notion of what that number would be.
The value of Bass? Yeah. Yeah. You think it's high? You think their idea of what they're worth is substantially higher than what it's actually?
Based on a conversation I had with a person in their sales department, I would say it's multiples of what I would think the value is.
Gotcha. Interesting. Well, I'd love to know that number. I would love to know that number for sure.
I'll share it with you off the air.
Okay. That's a deal. That's a deal. Guys, hour and 20 minutes in. We got 500 people watching. I thank you guys everybody for watching. Great comments. I do want to go back. You have a big show tomorrow night.
Yes.
It's a Halloween-esque spooktacular. Talk about it. Ken, Bry, give me a little. I'm pumped up to watch it because we're only going to be trick-or-treating with the kids from 4 to 7. So I'll be home. Give me a little info on the show tomorrow.
How do you fish a spook? We have, I probably shouldn't say who the guests are.
No, keep
3 top water masters.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it.
And we'll probably go wider than just walking baits. We'll probably go into a lot of top water stuff. And those have been, Mike, you were talking about some of the shows you enjoyed, and I've enjoyed all of them. But some of the ones I've really had a good time with is when we'll bring in 3 panelists who are kind of masters of their craft in a particular area. And we try really hard to maybe find one guy. Like we did how do you fish a hollow body frog? We had Dean Rojas, Bobby Barrick, and Alfred Williams. And I think our audience had never seen Alfred Williams before. And they were blown away by the guy who was the first one to put a skirt in a frog instead of soft plastic legs.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah, he held one up, and this was what was that? 70s, right, Ken? Late 70s. He held one of these frogs up. Yeah, snag proof from the 70s on our show, and it was one of them. It looked sick, dude. Wow. It looked just as awesome as any frog you see out today. And he nailed it. He nailed it back then. Wow,
that's so cool. I did want to give you a quick story, and this is in relation to your show tomorrow night on Spooks. I haven't officially said this anywhere, so this is the first time. Ike Live's good for this, but if you count my first Bassmaster Invitational entered as a pro, okay, so that's what I consider the start of my pro career. Back Invitationals, pro on pro. Ken, 1995, Lake Hartwell was my first pro tournament that I entered as a pro. And the first day, and so the first part.
What was first place payout?
I'm guessing. I bet you it was probably 30 to 40 grand, if I can remember correctly.
Part of that might have been a boat too,
and it probably might have been a boat. But the first part to that is this year coming up, 2025, assuming I don't retire with all the stuff going on. Wink, wink. Is my actual 30th year. Round of applause for myself. Thank you. 30 years.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
I appreciate that. But the cool thing, full circle moment, guys, the first day I drew out with Charlie Campbell.
Oh, wow.
How cool is that?
The master of the Zara Spook.
And he fished the Zara Spook. So the first pro tournament I ever fished in my life, I drew out with Charlie Campbell. Of course, that year I would let those guys go to all their fish. I was practicing myself in case they needed something. But I felt like in that stage of my career, I'm like, I'm going with them. I'm going with them. I didn't flip the coin. So use Charlie Campbell's boat, watch Charlie Campbell fish a spook, catch a couple good ones with it. And a couple hours left, that bite sort of had fizzled, a couple hours left in the day. We went to an area that I found and we flipped a couple, which was cool too. I had found some bushes. We were flipping Texas rig again. We caught a few doing that. So Charlie Campbell.
You did that whole first year of fishing that?
The whole first year, I
basically kind of deferred.
I got it deferred unless I drew another dude like me. But on all those big draws, you know, if I draw a Charlie Campbell or a Mickey Bruce. By the way, I said Mickey Bruce. Mickey Bruce passed away. Was it today, Ken, or yesterday?
I think he passed away yesterday, Mike.
Yesterday, yeah. Condolences to the family, Mickey's family. Amazing fisherman back in the day. One of the guys I looked at when I was learning how to fish a jig. So we're thinking about that. But anytime I drew a name, Brian, I was like, nah, I ain't flipping. I'm not flipping, you know, because I was still in the learning stage, you know. So, but
what happened the following year?
The following year, I started wanting my own boat, you know. Occasionally, I wouldn't.
And that's when you started backboating everybody.
I started backboating everybody.
29 years.
Oh, yeah.
I've been backboated by Mike Iaconelli. I've never been backboated by anybody who could do it as well as Mike Iaconelli. Before, I was going to say, that is so cool that you got two Hall of Fame caliber anglers in the same boat. Charlie Campbell at the end of his career, Mike Iaconelli at the beginning. That's spectacular. And you know, what's really cool about the sport is there are a lot of guys who have stories like that.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Don't slide away from where you were about to go.
What? The back what?
He's got a PB story. His personal best backboating.
Oh, we talked about this before.
On the air though?
I think so.
Damn it.
We're not going. We don't need to go there.
Guys, I tried to hook you up.
It was hilarious. It was hilarious. And Mike, you know, I don't have any ill will toward that. I thought it was so funny. But I'm pretty sure
you haven't forgotten it either.
After about 15 minutes, Mike was not even aware I was in the boat.
Dude, it is. We talked.
I've been there for that.
I know. We talked about this off air, but it has come full circle with Vegas now. And I told Brian this. I got a chance to fish Thursday nighter this year with Vegas, and we were on a flipping bite. And dude, there was nothing left. I had no idea. I just started throwing a chatterbait out in the middle of nowhere because I had nothing. I had nothing else to do. I just had to watch it. I'm like, damn it. Is that what I'm fucking doing to people all these years?
Oh my God.
This is horrible.
I don't know. Does Vegas scream and get really excited with every fish? Because that's what I listen to the whole day.
It
gets hard to be happy after a while, doesn't it?
And for the folks who haven't heard the story, Mike beat me 30-something to 1.
Oh my God.
30-something to 1. I had nothing to throw at.
It was a tricky bite though.
Oh, whatever. It was that worm that when Rapala had that other soft plastics company that was weighted with tungsten in it.
Yeah.
The knockoff of the old true tungsten worm.
Yeah.
Backslider.
I wonder who took that from true tungsten to Rapala.
Yeah, it was a backslider.
Anyway, there was a smallmouth behind every rock. And of course, if you're on the front deck and you got the trolling motor, you see these rocks way before the guy in the back deck, who really should be taking pictures anyway. But anyway, I had a great time. Always enjoyed my time with Mike.
30 to 1. That's
30 something. 30.
Can you imagine what it would have been
like mercy rule?
Yeah. Can you imagine what it would have been like with forward facing sonar?
Oh my God. Yes. I don't think you could have caught him as fast with forward facing as you were, because there was one behind every rock, and you'd bomb a cast in, and you're hooked up. You're hooked up.
And he's so happy and energetic, and you're like, yeah, you know. And then like after the 10th one, you're like,
yeah. I mean, the video, the visual of it was challenging, but then to add the audio, that was too much.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was a great day that I will never forget. I've been back-ended by the best. I'm
Well,
not
I'm proud.
comfortable- I'm not comfortable with the way I said that, but
I was just going to say I'm proud to be that guy, but I might not say that.
let's this is all going out and be cut out in post-production, right, Mike? I'm sure.
Yeah, that's terrible. I definitely, listen to me. I invite everybody watching and listening. Tune in tomorrow, dude. This is going to be a good show. You're going to love it. Tune into every episode every Thursday, guys, 9 p.m. Right? It's pretty static across the board.
Absolutely.
Definitely invite guys to look. And the other thing I want to invite everybody watching and listening, because Brian the Carpenter, we have proven this is factual that when we get 500, 1,000 people on here, we have a lot of fake names watching that are from the leagues and stuff like that. So I invite everyone watching and listening, do your own research. Listen, guys, these are our opinions. That's it. Print out the Bass release, print out the information, use your calculator, do your own research. Yeah, do your own research. These are just our opinions, but I invite you to flush it out a little bit on what's going on. There it goes. Even highlight it. What's going on
How do they
today.
stack up with the Opens payouts?
I don't know. I didn't analyze that. Honestly, I was so kind of fuming that I didn't get to that yet, but it would be interesting. Not just the Opens, but it'd be interesting to compare it to the other leagues. And, I think that analysis should happen too. But invite everybody to look at that. Guys, I had a lot of fun. I want
wait.
on. Yeah, what, Brian, you got something? Ken, you have something?
But wait, we both have something.
Oh.
Yes. Brian?
We have.
Drum roll, please. I used to ask for a drum roll, Ken, thinking that, we have the soundboard back here, mixing equipment, all this high-tech stuff. And Brian would always just go.
That shit never worked, Mike.
I'm like, come on, man. Let's get a real sound effect here.
We have a special Bass After Dark Ike Live Top 10.
It's the top 10 failed Mike Iaconelli slogans. We all know and love never give up. But a lot of people don't realize that there were some other Mike Iaconelli slogans that didn't make that final cut.
Oh, no.
And here they are.
Oh,
let me get the drum roll going.
In Bass After Dark style, read by me and BTC.
No.
Tell me when you're ready, Brian. This can take a while.
Oh, fuck. It's like 3 seconds.
Here we go.
Hold on,
top
get a
10.
longer drum roll.
Oh, we're trying to do a real drum roll?
Yeah, but one that's longer than that.
Oh, man.
Sorry,
Well,
Mike.
wait. First, this commercial.
Oh, great.
And get ready, Ken.
Okay.
Go.
Top 10 failed Mike Iaconelli slogans. Number 10, don't tase me, bro.
Number 9, this is bullshit.
Number 8, welcome to the community.
Number 7, fuck you, no wake zone.
Number 6, WWVD. What would Vegas do?
Number 5, fuck you, scale.
Number 4, unsafe at any speed.
I love that one. Number 3, fuck you, recreational angler in my way.
Number 2, yikes, I'm sitting in my own urine.
And the number 1 failed Mike Iaconelli slogan. Fuck you, dog.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Sorry for the language.
Wow.
Keep it real.
That's such a good top 10.
That was actually in our list of top 10s to do on Bass After Dark, but we figured since you invited us to Ike Live, we just do it here.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, I see Becky on the comments with the laugh emoji. By the way, if you're watching and listening, I can neither confirm or deny that all those are true, but they may be.
Outstanding. We have several Mike Iaconelli lists. We yet to
Wow.
We do. We want to have you on Bass After Dark, though, to read one of them for us.
Yeah.
And honestly, the one on this list that I read that I was most proud of was WWVD. What would Vegas do? Because I'm guessing that sometimes you're out on the water in competition and you're thinking to yourself, what would my son do?
Oh man, more than you know, Ken. More than you know. And when you ask him, it's a fresh book. There are no rules. There are no preconceived notions. And my tendency as an old fisherman is to write him off, laugh at him. Brian knows. Dude, he went out with an orange glide bait, a reddish orange glide bait last fall. And I'm like, man, don't tie. No, it's the fall. It's a shad color. That's a spring deal, dude. No, he had a feeling about it. Dude, he caught like a 6.3. Like, that stuff happens all the time because he has no preconceived notions, And that's a great thing to have, The Burning Season said, you forgot one, guys. Fuck you, light pole. That may be for the next list.
That'll be on the next list.
Good one. Good one for sure. Oh, dude, that was so good. That actually was my best moment of the show. There. I laughed. I like laughing. That feels good. That was always
probably have "fuck you, Keith Combs" in there too, or something.
All that. There's so many FUs in there. But the one thing about the old,
so many.
Oh yeah, the one thing about the old Ike Live show, Ken, is that every show we had those moments of that really hard laughter where it hurts, and you feel the tears coming. And Dave Brodzik was always really good at giving you cramps, and man, that's what these shows should do. You guys do a good job of that, make people laugh, entertain people, right? And you guys do a great job of that in your show. So hats off to you guys.
We're trying hard.
Yeah.
And having a good time with it. Our goals were have a good time, maybe make some money on it, and ultimately, of course, world domination.
Yeah. Well, I think the first and the third could happen, but in the fishing industry, number 2, it ain't going to happen for a while.
Maybe I should put them in a different order then. That's stair-step it.
Yeah. Pay Brian an alcohol and you guys are good.
That's the biggest change, I think, in our show since the start, Mike, is now we do most of our drinking during the program. So there's that.
It always helps. It always helps. Guys, thank you for coming on tonight.
It's critical.
It was it was so cool having you on. And I would honestly, I know Brian and I have had discussions and haven't been on the podcast yet, but I'd love to come on one day for sure.
Becky's been on. You just got to get on before we have Vegas on.
You probably want Vegas on before me, to be honest with you. If it's talking about fishing, if it's techniques, you probably want him on before me.
Fresh take.
I definitely would love to come on the show one day, and you guys are doing a great job. And thank you for coming on the show. Brian showed me a hammered blade.
Yeah, well, who is it, Mike? Wait. It's
Strike King.
Yeah, it's got that little cut.
100% Strike King.
With that little leaf.
Yeah.
This is when they did that stupid orange thing there.
Yeah, remember that too. Yeah.
Thanks for having us, Mike. We appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, guys. And we'll be tuned in. Once again, guys, Bass After Dark, 9 p.m. Spookalicious. What is it? Spookalicious. What is it?
Yes.
Spooktacular show.
How do you fish a spook?
It's going to be a good one. I'll be listening for sure. And
we got
happy
a legend.
Halloween.
We got a legend, a recent winner, very recent winner.
Ooh.
And
another topwater master.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
And we got Chef. Where's he at?
And Chef.
Yeah.
Chef. Oh, Chef. Chef was sleeping.
Where am I?
So good. Good to see Chef.
Where am I?
Yeah, guys, happy Mischief Night. Happy Halloween tomorrow. And we'll be tuned into you.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you, brother. Appreciate
Later, Ken. Later, Bri. Love you
buddy.
guys. Later. All right, there you have it, guys. What a great show. Of course, the great Ken Duke. Dude knows more about stuff and fishing than anybody alive. On top of that, he's a really good dude. And Brian the Carpenter, you know and love Brian. He's a good dude too. And he's my friend. Guys, thank you for coming on. And I appreciate, man, we had 500 people on most of the night. Thank you guys for the amazing commentary. Hope you enjoyed the show. Before we let you go, once again, the show is brought to you by Abu Garcia. Head over to abugarcia.com. Also brought to you by the Ike Foundation. If you want to find out on how to get more kids fishing, head on over there. Head to the IkeFoundation.org to get information on that. We've got a couple more good shows coming up in the next couple of weeks, guys. And maybe I was going to kind of tell you But maybe now, maybe I'll just tease it like the guys at Bass After Dark do. But check them out tomorrow night, 9 p.m. if you're watching live over there. And have a great night. Don't poop in a bag. Don't put it on a doorstep. Don't knock on it. Don't light it on fire. Good night, guys. Bye.
Do you fish for excitement? Do you fish for passion? Do you fish to get outside? Or do you fish to win? Abu Garcia for life. You know, right now where we're standing, we're in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is right there. This is the concrete jungle. And, you know, a lot of those kids, as they grow up, they don't fish. It's interesting because they're surrounded by water. You know, the Delaware River, the Schuylkill, ponds, city park lakes. But they don't have the influence to cast, to fish, to have a rod and reel. And that became our focus, you know, is to target kids in what we call non-traditional areas, you know, urban areas, city centers, where the population's high, and let these kids have an experience. You know, it's amazing. I mean, some of the experiences we've had, whether it's Central Park in New York City, here in Camden, other parts of the country, even just casting.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to see it, isn't it?
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And you know, you see these kids have this experience they've never had, and they light up, you know? The big thing, I think, for the Ike Foundation is we're not saying we want all these kids to become professional anglers.
No.
It'd be great if some of them did, but we want them to have that fishing experience because it ties them to so many other positive things. The outdoors, nature, conservation. Ecology, you know, all these amazing things in life that maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to any other way. We're trying to help with that. So it's important. It's important for us.
Yeah.
We're proud of it.
I subscribe to Bass U TV, and so should you.
Great place to learn about anything you want to know about bass fishing.
You get it at Bass U. We got the best of the best.
I'm not just an instructor, I'm a subscriber.
I'm John Cruz, and I am a subscriber.
You can always learn, and watching Bass U is definitely helps with that. It's something that I like to do, and it's definitely something that you need to do.
If I'm still learning, you should be too.
Subscribe to Bass U because you'll learn how to catch a lot more fish.
Ike Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.